Welcome to Choices, Finding Your Joy. Paula Vail here, and I am just thrilled today to be sharing with you this beautiful lady. I have with me today Marilyn Redmond. She is an international speaker, international award-winning writer. She is an international author, consultant, and international columnist. She has done so much. She has written multiple books, and we're going to talk about a couple of those books today. But first off, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me here. I feel really happy to be here and very honored. Thank you.
I'm just so delighted. Oh, and a fellow Pacific Northwest girl. I just love it.
I love it here too.
Yes. Gosh, you just have done so many things, and even today, you know, as we were chatting earlier, you just are so busy.
Oh, I do keep busy.
It's so fantastic. I love it. Well, let's begin with, if you'd like to share a bit of your history and what prompted you to write that very first book.
Oh, very good. Well, my history is I'm from this area. I was born in Seattle, raised in Seattle, and then moved to Bremerton. And so I went to college in Western Washington State University. And that time it was a college, and now it's a university in Bellingham. And I graduated as a teacher. I taught school for 30 years. I've taught everything from kindergarten through college. And I love teaching, and I still teach only spiritual classes instead of little kids. Archangel Michael came in and said, now you're going to start teaching adults. And it scared me to death because little kids are no problem. They're fun, right? Those adults. So I went into the junior college and started teaching classes. And I also teach classes for other spiritual groups like the Edgar Casey Association and other people that have asked me to come and visit and give lectures. And I really enjoy it. And so in my growing up, I had a very traumatic childhood. It was not very fun. And it was called domestic violence with a lot of abuse. And so in going through that, I was an unhappy childhood. And fortunately, when I got to college, I thought, oh, I'm going to be free of this. You know, mm-hmm. I'm not at home anymore. And, you know, of course, like attracts like. And I found somebody, and we got married, and domestic violence all over again with lots of abuse. So things got so bad at one point. We were married for 30 years in this mess, and things got so bad he was trying to kill me, and I was trying to suicide. And one night, I knew I wouldn't get home alive that night, and that wasn't the first time, but something told me this time you won't make it. And I'd always been in church for 50 years. I went to church. But it was whatever was in the hymnal, all spontaneously. He's doing this manic driving, coming home from Canada on a vacation. He got upset, and I got scared. And I said, God, please help me. I really don't want to die. And he was off the road within minutes, passed out of the wheel. And one thing led to another. He didn't want, when he came to the next morning, he wouldn't let me out of the car to find a safer place, obviously. And eventually the trip ended up with his finding AA, and I ended up in treatment for prescription drugs, because in going for help to a psychiatrist, they put you on medications, of course, and that just made things worse. I've discovered medications are no better than alcohol, so in my system anyway. And so the combination was bad, and so I had to go into treatment and found that the answer was becoming spiritual and having a conscious connection with God. And when you go to church your whole life, I taught Sunday school, I sang in the choir, and I was spiritually bankrupt. Didn't have a clue. I didn't understand faith in those days. By church, I'm sure you never talked about faith or had a sermon on faith. And so I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to set up all the ducks like at the Puyallup Fair and shoot. You know, you're in control. And that doesn't work very well. And of course, it brought me to my demise almost. I've almost died 12 times, actually. And for various reasons, and medical, some of them. And so I had to learn how to start meditating. And that was a switch because my church didn't they didn't approve of meditation. You were to listen to the minister and not the voice inside. So for me to change that was very scary. But today, that's the way I live. Today, my answers come from the silent voice within, the guidance or God, how you want to call that. And my life I've been blessed. I really, truly am a happy person today. In fact, I've had real omens manifest in my life in the last couple of days that show me I am actually moving into that higher consciousness. And, it comes from the inside out. And I've had several wonderful experiences. When Eastern Washington was having their fires, I came out to get in my car, and it was covered with black ash, and the sun was red. And to me, that was an omen that I'm the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And I had some experiences yesterday too that showed me that I'm in this higher consciousness today. So there's hope for everybody. If I can do it, there's hope for everybody.
Yes, that's right. We can survive and rise above, difficult situations. And that's a great message to get out there. And the fact that you've written these amazing books, Marilyn, I would love to talk about this for a few minutes. Paradigm Busters. And something that I just absolutely loved and would love to talk about is, you say, when the ego manages your life, what happens? Because ego can control us and actually block us from so many things, I believe. Yeah.
Well, that's when we come into planet Earth. We're in third dimension, and we're living in this tangible material world, and we're looking around ourselves for how to protect ourselves and what's going on so we'll be okay. And then you start learning to react off of those things that are happening because you don't want to be hurt. You want your life to go well, so you get very vigilant. In my case, I was very vigilant. And so you're trying to do the right things because you want, in my case, I was trying to do the right things so I wouldn't get hurt. And growing up was a real challenge. Excuse me. So I didn't know I was listening to my ego. My mother was mentally ill, paranoid schizophrenic, and my dad was an alcoholic. And my stepdad, I say, he was the devil incarnate. And so all I knew was I didn't live in this illusionary world of fear. And the ego is edging God out. Well, if you're edging God out, I was a fear-based person. Fear, guilt, and shame ran my life. I didn't know there was another way until I became a spiritual person and discovered you're supposed to be able to separate and discern the truth from the false. Oh, the truth from the false. Oh, what do you mean? I didn't even know what the truth was. So I had to start learning about what the truth is and discern that and separate that so I could find reality. And that's my next book, will be Finding Reality. So the thing is that the ego stops us from that reality. And it's that fear from the ego, false emotions appearing real, creates a blanket over our soul so we cannot see the light and the sunlight of reality. And so as we actually release those fears individually, one by one, humbly remove this fear of and identify it specifically. And then in meditation, I was told to replace each item that I'm releasing with love and grace. They said, otherwise anything can come in and fill the void. So you might as well go to what you want. So every time I release a fear, I replace it with love and grace. And I've done that for 32 years, and that's what this picture's about. That was my last fear, I become fearless. My last fear was to go up in this huge Ferris wheel at the Seattle waterfront. Oh. And I'd had a traumatic experience in 6th grade in the octopus, and I was never going to ride a circus ride that went high.
I remember that ride.
And I thought if I fell out of the octopus, I was going to go splat on the ground, and that would be the end of Marilyn. And so I panicked. They took me off the ride immediately. Wow. They saw how scared I really, that was probably the scariest thing in my life. I thought that was the end of Marilyn. And so to face and go up on that ride, I asked my spiritual teacher what to do, because my boyfriend's birthday, that's what he wanted to do for his birthday. And I said, no, I must have told him 5 or 6 times. No, I'm not going up there. And she said, oh, I can hypnotize you and you'll be able to go up. And I do hypnotism for a living. I'm an internationally board certified hypnotherapist. So for past life and regression healing. So I said, oh, if that's what I've got to do, I'll go into meditation and I can change it. Meditation is the same as hypnosis. It's an altered state. So I went into meditation, put myself in the arms of God where I would be safe. And we went up to Seattle. When I said I would go with him, you should have seen the look on his face. He thought, you always said you're not going. And I said, I can do it now. I can do it now. And I had a glorious time. And going up in the Ferris wheel, the sky came on. It was in the evening. It started to be evening. And it started getting oranger and oranger and oranger. And I got this picture. And I felt so terrific. It was just like, I can't put words to it. It was just amazing. And I found out later that orange is the color of Christ consciousness. And when you get rid of your fears, you move into this fearlessness, which is the mind of Jesus with unconditional love. Some people call it maturity. Some people call it a fifth dimension, however you want to term it, ascension. Yes. And so that was the beginning of my moving out of the third dimension ego. The ego doesn't run my life anymore. I have choice. The ego, I do have challenges come up, but it's not like I used to have to just react as a victim anymore. Mm-hmm. I can respond, what is the most loving thing for the other person and for me, and I can handle it and move on. Yes. And it doesn't have to stop my life. And I can have a life. That's the best part. I can have a life, be present, live in the now. And the ego kept me back in the past. And it replayed the old problems over and over like a little hamster wheel. And when you get into the ego not running your life anymore, now you can step into the now and make choices and enjoy the presence of God. And that's a beautiful place to be. I'm here to say that it's getting better every day.
Yes. Love it. Love it. What would you say are some of the high points that you make in this book, Marilyn?
Thank you for asking that, because that's one of the things most books actually leave out, is what this is the ultimate how-to book to move into that higher consciousness of God consciousness, Christ consciousness. There's different terms. Mm-hmm. And it's the energy has to move. And so this book explains how you can move your energy up into the Jacob's ladder in the Bible is really a ladder of consciousness, and we're really energy fields. And we can raise our consciousness, that energy inside of us, into higher and higher steps on the ladder. I created a chart in there that shows the different steps that you go through into, so to speak, heaven on earth. Yeah. And so as you're doing that, you need to have some information and tools. So the first part of each chapter is a principle, a universal principle. And we start out with honesty, and then we go into the second one is hope, because we can move out of our insanity into hope, that we can move into being in really where we want to be all the time. And then third step is into faith. And each chapter identifies things in your life that have been obstacles for you, so you can see how to change it and transform it to work for you instead of keep you back in the ego. Yeah. So as you move through the different chapters of the book, your consciousness is being raised, because each principle, as you apply it in your life, and that's what's missing in books, is they tell you what to do, but I show you how to apply it so that it comes into actually manifesting. It's not a head trip, it becomes a heart trip. Oh. And so you can move out of your head and into your heart. Now, the trick is, in churches and most spiritual groups, they don't have you release what's in the way, the barriers you built to protect yourself, or I built. I have to identify all of those and release them and replace them with God's love and grace. And so as we go through the book, your consciousness raises and raises and raises until by the time you get to the last principles, you're moving into the presence of God, or the presence of love, unconditional love, or however you choose to define that space, where it's, I feel blessed today. And the issues, the abuse I went through, the trauma, the drama, all the problems, and I could just give you tons of them, aren't issues anymore. They're not emotionally hanging on to me. I've released all those emotional connections, and I am free of that. And then when our soul is free of that, then our choices just become manifested in our lives. We can create our own reality. Yes. And it's much easier when you don't have the barriers. And yes. So my book shows you how to get rid of what's in the way so you don't have to protect yourself, because if you're in the arms of God, or if you're feeling the goodness and blessings of what's really there beyond the fear, that's what you create and manifest. And the fear it dispels the fear. If you walk into a dark room and turn on the light, there is no darkness. So you're living in the light, and that's the reality of love and peace and all the things that we are wanting in our lives.
Yes, I love that. And yes, as we're able to release those things such as fear and doubt, anger, and bring in love and compassion, trust, hope, joy, that just lifts our vibration, lifts us up to a higher vibration, and then we have the like attracts like, and then the manifestations just flow.
Well, that's why I wrote this book, is nobody ever said what to do specifically with directions and how to change that. So when you take an inventory of yourself, I have explicit directions of how to address your resentments, how to address your fear, how to address your behaviors, so that those things can be transformed. What I discovered is you can't have faith and fear at the same time. And my article for that just got published yesterday in the new spiritual journal on the internet. And so it's called Faith versus Fear. It's an article just put out yesterday. And then what I discovered about resentments and anger is that if you hang on to that, you're still staying in your little kid. And your little kid the person that you're resentful of didn't do what you wanted them to do. They didn't handle it the way you thought they should have done it, and life ain't going your way. And you're a little 5-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. And that keeps you immature to keep those angers or resentments over and over, and you keep building, and they get larger, and you get more angry, and you get sick, because anger is a disease of the brain, according to Edgar Casey. So as you release those things, what you're really doing is we're growing up. Yeah. And we're not staying little kids anymore. We don't have to walk in the fear. There's no moving in. We turn on the light, and we walk out of the fears, and we have choice today for our behaviors to come from a loving basis, and when that's what we create out there. So when you love your neighbor, you love yourself, and it really comes out to be a wonderful solution for coming into harmony and balance in your life.
Because isn't every day, a new choice, a new mindset that we can create, and choose the energy we want to put out there, and realize how much power we have.
Well, that's really true. It is all about your mindset. Choices. And so many people have been told to limit their thinking. And so there's a lot of affirmations in my book so that you can change into affirming the truth. What I learned in the box of dogma at my church wasn't the truth. It was man-made rules I was supposed to follow. And at one point, it was like a pizza box in my lap. And, like Christopher Columbus thought the world was flat, and that's how people thought. And all of a sudden, one day, the lid came up, and God came out of the box and filled the universe. And so God is in everything I know. It's not just in this box of my beliefs. I don't have a belief today. I know in my heart that I'm a spiritual person. In fact, I know I was created as a Christed person, and this book helps you to release all those human shortcomings so that you can move back into what we were created.
Beautiful.
So we were created in the image of God. The things that are in the way have stopped us, and this book shows us the way back.
I love it. I love it. Would you like to touch on any of your other books?
Well, my first book was Roses Have Thorns, and it was a book of poetry explaining the abuse I went through, my early growing up and marriage life, and written in poetry form. So I was going to a writing class and working on my poems, and the teacher was also a publisher. And I went up to her one night after class, and I said, "Can I get you to publish my poems?" So that's how I got published the first time. Prior to that, I'd also already been a columnist and done a lot of writing, but that was going to be my first book. And so she says, oh, I was just hoping you would ask me. She says, your book belongs in every counselor's office waiting room. So I thought it was really great. So she published my first book, and I put my own illustrations. I'm an artist, and so I've illustrated the whole book. And all my books now, the covers, everything is my work. And so that was my first book. And my second book, I channel. I'm a medium. And after Saint Germain came in one day, it's on YouTube, but he told me that information needed to go into a book. And that book is called The Real Meaning of 2012, Bringing Heaven to Earth. So when we release our ego, it feels like heaven on earth. So the ego isn't bad. It's gotten a bad rap in some ways. And the poem in Roses Have Thorns explains, my little story about the ego is to make friends with your ego. So when you reduce the influence of the ego down to what's realistic, that's your basic core and inner identity, and you need that. But when we are trying to protect ourselves, it grows and grows out of proportion and stops God working in our lives. So with 2012, the energy changed into Christ consciousness with the photon build. If people are into spirituality, they know what I'm talking about. We now have higher energy around the planet to allow us to return to Christ consciousness. So it helps you to understand the ego's influence and how to deal with that. And that's what that book's about. And then, of course, it took 25 years to write Paradigm Busters. And to put 600 pages together was quite a story. And but it finally got done. It was, of course, a long, long project. And then I started writing chapters for anthologies. A fellow in England was putting together anthologies and requested me to write some part of, the anthologies were about success, okay? So I wrote these stories about success, and Spirit told me that I was to take those chapters and put them into a book. So they're the stories I wrote for the anthologies, but it's about success not in the material world, it's about inner success. So people need to have hope, and this is kind of my book of hope. That you can change your life from all this material chaos and craziness going on.
That's your book of hope.
Road to hope, road to success, and that's the inner success. And then I'm working on a book now which will have more of my experiences moving through the principles that are in Paradigm Busters, but my personal experiences that give people examples of how I did it. So that's the book I'm working. It's almost finished now. It's going to be called Finding Reality. And then on Amazon is where all my books are. And I also have ebooks on there. So people can get some just short little articles. They're called ebooks. And so Amazon.com has 8 books that I've put together and several more in the process coming soon. I just really enjoy. I have this international column for the Sussex newspaper every month. Right now I'm using spiritual slogans of how they've helped me in my life. Easy does it, one day at a time, all those things. People say, well, those are corny, but there's so much truth to them. They're really helpful in my case. I had no truth in my life, and the slogans I'm writing about, people suggested that I will try this, and I thought about it, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll try it, and I discovered they really can help you put your life together in a way that's productive, and it worked for me anyway. So I'm sharing, you might say, these little quotes of information I call wisdom today, not slogans. So yeah, it's fun. I love to do past life regressions. In fact, I just did an exorcism on Skype with a lady in California, and I did one a couple weeks earlier in Milton. A lady showed up who's still coming for help, and I love being able to do counseling because people, when they're really ready to change their lives and they're real open to what do I need to do, and they're like a sponge, and it's just exciting to see people grow. It's really fun to see their lives change. And they can tell the difference, and it's just exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah. And it must be just so fantastic to help so many people, Marilyn. I love it. And with just a few minutes left in the show, what last words do you want to share with everyone? What would you thoughts would you like to send with them today?
Well, I think there's a couple things I'd like to say. First of all, never give up on yourself. My life got so bleak at one time, I wouldn't try suicide if my life was a bowl of cherries. And angels literally came and helped me. So never give up on yourself, because you're worth more than that. And your life is here to be loved and enjoyed and have all the beautiful, we are on a planet that's gorgeous. The Mount Rainier where we live, and the ocean is close by, and all the beautiful scenery that we have around here. This planet is a beautiful planet. So don't give up in yourself. And, the other thing that really changed my life is learning how to meditate and how to go within and get the answers that really work. So instead of listening, if I listened to my minister, I would have been dead by now, because he said I shouldn't get a divorce. If I'd listened to the medical field, the pills were killing me. They're poison, I know today. I use only homeopathic and healing in God for my recoveries. I've healed 10 addictions, mental illness, domestic violence, all kinds of things in my life. And if I can do it, you can do it, and I help you do it. So don't give up in yourself, and start listening to the voice inside, which has the truth. And you'll get your answers of where to go. The right people, like Paula, will show up. The right opportunities will come to you. Yesterday, I had a wonderful opportunity, and at first I thought, do I really want to do this? That's when you really should do it. And I had some great results because of it. So, when you have these things will come to you if you're in touch with your higher power, or God, however you choose to say that, conscious contact of the love of the universe. So God loves us so much. We just have to say, please help me. What do I do next? And it will come to you. So don't give up on yourself, and get help from inside your heart, which is love, and open up your heart, let the love out, and just let it manifest in your life, and you can just have a great life. So just do it. It's worth it. And it's not always easy, but it's worth it.
Yes. Oh, Marilyn, thank you so much.
Oh, this has been fun. I've had a great time. So fun. This is wonderful.
So happy we connected. And you can learn more about Marilyn on her website, and her books are on Amazon.
Amazon.com. Yes. My website is angelicusgifts.com, or Google my name. It'll come up.
Yeah. So until next week, thank you, everyone. Love, hugs, and blessings to everyone. Marilyn, love, hugs, and blessings.
Well, thank you for sending the word out to all these people, because you do so much to spread the word, spread the message. Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone is loved. Yes. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.